Hello and welcome to Small Town Big Business, a podcast about doing big business in small town middle America. I'm your host, Allison Hassler with Southern Illinois Vacation Rentals.
And I'm Russell Williams, a director of EThOs. We're a small business incubator, co-working spaces, training and development here in downtown Marion, Illinois. Welcome to the Citadel building, historic 1914 building here on Tower Square Plaza. We're thankful for that you joined us. We also want to thank our sponsors for making the Small Town Big Business podcast possible. We want to thank Arcadia Wealth Group, Fowler Heating and Cooling, Black Diamond Harley Davidson and RV, the Watermark Auto Group Foundation, Swinford Media Group, and of course Union Street Arts.
And you can join the Small Town Biz Business community wherever you listen to podcasts. Remember, subscribing is free and you'll get upcoming episodes that are released every 2 weeks.
Now, it's pretty good that you remember all those.
You see me glancing down on my notes. So if you are new to the podcast, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. Today, our guests are none other than Tanya Miller and Ellen Graff, the owners of Southern Illinois Mercantile Company. Thank you so much, you guys, for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Your neighbors that we have been wanting to get on the podcast for quite some time. So you're right down here in Tower Square Plaza, and
thanks for
we love it.
Accepting our invitation.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I don't know if you know quite what you've gotten yourself into.
We do, and we're excited.
Well, this is what I want to know out of the gate.
Okay.
When Allison worked for the city, how often did she come over to have ice cream?
We can't disclose that.
No, she shut me down.
Well, and
Sorry.
I can't sell out my former coworkers, but I will say that I was not as often as some of my coworkers.
Right.
You weren't by yourself.
Listen,
we have the Merc stays at the Merc.
We have a heavy foot traffic of city workers,
There you go.
but I mean, we're not going to bust anybody out for coming to see us either.
I will say, though, every time I went, I probably got ice cream.
I would too.
Every single time, which is why I tried to stay away.
I would too.
Your homemade ice cream is amazing.
Thank you.
So I'm excited to hear about your origin story because I know that you two are friends, not relatives, and you haven't been friends since you were 5 years old or anything like that. So I want to hear how you guys met, how you came to where you are today.
Okay. I feel like you always tell that story the best.
Okay. Well, I was visiting from Dallas, Fort Worth, where I lived for over 20 years. And my husband and I were shopping at Dillard's during the holidays. And we ran into her husband, who was friends with my brother. And Ellen just so happened to be with him that day. And that was our first interaction ever. Fast forward a few years, and my husband and I relocated to Marion. And my brother was hanging out with Jordan, and they were really good friends. And Ellen was always with him, obviously, being his little wife. And
she says I'm like the puppy dog.
We kind of connected. She's a lot significantly younger than I am. And there was just a deep-rooted connection, and we made friends, and we started hanging out with Jordan and Ellen, too, and having them over to our house and eating dinner together and having fun. And then the next thing you know, we're making plans.
And how long ago was that before the business started?
Let's see, we moved here in 2013.
We didn't start until 16. As far as the actual partnership starting a business, but we did flea markets,
2014.
2 years? Yeah, 14 and started into 15, but then I got pregnant with the twins, so that kind of, put a damper on things.
So what was the conversation like? What was the dream casting that you guys were doing when the conversations just started?
Well, she came over to family dinner. So our family has family dinner every Sunday. Or Tuesday night or whatever.
Yeah,
but we
think it was
meet
like a
regularly,
Tuesday night
sometimes twice a week. And we were at my family farm, and wannabe farm. And she come lugging in a big old box of jewelry and sets it on the table. And she's like, I'm selling jewelry. Y'all want to dig through it? And I looked at her and I was like, well, hey, that's what I want to do. I'm like, I've got
She's
plans
like, well,
too.
I like this.
I'm like, I make stuff, I'm kind of crafty. We've had someone tell us that they were multi-crafted it in over 50 crafts. And so maybe that's me. I don't know. But anyway, we were like, got to thinking and, dreaming or whatever, just talking like you do, and we decided to do a little flea market locally.
Okay.
It was cheap. We could afford it, and it started there.
So when you say flea market, does that mean that you went from different festivals and set up booths?
Pretty much.
Or,
so I think the first one that we did was country time,
Harvest time in the country.
Yeah, harvest time in the country down at Creel with Miss Katie, and that was our first adventure. And I can remember getting so mad at her because she brought everything. Like it was like a miniature shop in this tent, and I was just expecting to set up a table, and here she's got like a whole boutique, and I'm like, what have I gotten myself into? But people loved it. They loved, and instantaneously she started loving on people, and it was very charismatic. People would stop back by, they would, come back and show us what they found. I mean, it was you could tell that there was a draw from her that was very unique.
Yeah.
So from that first spot, were you looking for the next place to go?
Well, we didn't know what we were
we
just... I mean, we're still kind of fly by the seat of our pants. I mean, it's totally every single day we just let the Lord lead us. But after you go to something like that and you see what everybody else has got going on, it kind of gets you sort of in the game. Well, we gotta do better.
Yeah.
Our tent looks like a hillbilly.
Yeah, so we have pictures of it where we had this blue awning tent because that was what went to baseball games and soccer games. So we threw that up, and different things. I
think at that time, literally, it was $25 a day for the weekend. So it was like a $50 investment on our part. And she had arranged some stuff, and well, she's not very good at arranging stuff,
So then
nobody's gonna grab that. That's all just
So then later on, I learned that all I needed to do was get it out, and she would come back through and put it where it needed to be.
Yeah.
So that was my part. As long as I can get it out and unpack it for her, then she can display it, and it's still like that at the shop today.
So when you go to those kind of events, everybody's talking that's there, and and participating, and then they tell you what the next big thing is, So well, we got to get ready for the next big thing,
Sure.
So we kind of started getting some ideas and what we were going to do. We ordered a new tent, had sides on it, and a little bit more of a elevation.
Had rollers on the bag.
Yeah. And we signed up for our next event, and it took us to Kentucky. And we went by ourselves,
horrific,
without our
spouses.
Yeah, okay. It was bad.
And we drove a big truck, and I think we was hauling a trailer too.
Yeah.
And it was down by the river, and the weather was just windy, the most wind you've ever seen. I think our mannequin almost blew into the river. And it was really awesome though, because we met a lady who has her own just following on social media.
She has that old farmhouse.
Yeah, Thistlewood is the name of her place.
I don't know if you know her or not. You need to look her up.
Thistlewood Farms. Cool. And anyway, you just meet people and you have fun, and then it's hard too. I mean, it's a lot of hard.
Yeah, because our husbands had packed the truck before we left, and then we had to pack it and tie it down to go back home. Yeah.
And at that event, we were literally we didn't know we needed sandbags to hold the tent down.
Oh, wow.
With the wind.
Oh, right.
So we were holding on to the tent. Who cares about the the merchandise, because our tent's going to be in the river. And at that point, that was our biggest investment.
we spent half the day standing like literally. This, and it's right over there. And
oh my goodness.
So how did you go from flea markets to storefront?
Well, got tired of lugging that stuff around. I mean, I'm telling you, unless you're, the people who do that are amazing. And they've got it down to an art.
Yeah,
because they have trailers that have got shelves in them, and they pack it up, and they're on the road all the time.
Yeah.
And, that just wasn't for us, really. I mean, it just wasn't our thing. You just get tired of packing it, taking it out. Your house is always a mess because you got stuff everywhere.
How long did you do that? How long were you in the flea market scene
14
before
to almost 16.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
we
about
did
2
it
years.
Not real long, but long enough to know we weren't
enough,
doing it right.
Right. Yeah, long enough to know that wasn't how we wanted to
I'm not packing
have
the trailer
business.
again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So then you ended up did you buy the building or are you leasing? And
Well, we were actually, we
take things slower than that.
we got an idea that if we could rent a little place and have a little boutique, that would be fun. And we wouldn't have to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So we rented the space right down the road by the library. And that was our first location.
Next to Biddle's office.
yeah.
So it's the two parts, okay?
So, yeah.
So there's 7 rooms in there, and it's like 500 square feet with a
Yeah.
bathroom. And we could literally pay the rent and utilities and everything that we needed to on it out of our own budget. So, and not take away from our family.
Okay.
So that was a big thing. We wanted to just have like a separate endeavor. And we were really kind of being called to allow God to make something out of nothing. And so we didn't know how it was going to work, but we had just decided that, you put in $50, I'll put in $50. We opened our bank account and we started the Merc with $100.
Yeah.
And
to back up a little bit, I stayed at home with my kids. I didn't work. So it was a whole new level for me. And Ellen left her career, graduating from college job. And so we both found ourselves, she had had the twins, kind of, we enjoyed spending time together. We always say that we had to find a way to spend money that our husband and be able to shop.
Right.
Yeah.
And our husbands wouldn't get aggravated about it.
yeah.
So.
Business investment.
Yeah, we were very resourceful.
And listen, I mean, we never knew. We had no idea. To say that we had a full-on business plan would be just completely.
Yeah, no. Our family, I think, for the first year, we were just playing pretend.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what they.
A hobby
that's,
business.
Yeah, that's what they. Instead of being in a garage, we were in a little building that locked, and but to them, it was just pretend.
So did you just run out of space and say we need a bigger place, or what happened?
It started growing. During that time, Ellen lost her grandmother the day that her twins were born, and
Okay.
she had a huge hand in raising Ellen, a huge influence on her life. And one of the reasons why I moved back to Southern Illinois was because of my family, and I lost my grandmother the year that we opened the little store, and she had I sat at her table every morning before school and ate breakfast. She fed all us kids, grandkids, cousins. Then we'd walk to school and come home. And then most nights she made supper for the entire family. And so, losing somebody like that had such an influence and impact on your life, and also hearing their hopes and dreams that they had when they were younger, just inspired me so much, and Ellen as well. And so when we opened the shop, we dedicated it to our grandmothers.
Oh, that's really neat. And what year was that when you
Okay,
opened
so
the
when
big one?
we opened the little shop, when it was just the Mercantile portion, it was the fall of 16. And then, was it 17? It was that following year. So even after we opened the little shop, for whatever reason, God had laid it on our heart that we wanted to be on the square.
Okay.
And so we would, every time we'd come through, we'd do an extra circle and we'd pray, like, God, wherever you want to put us, we'll go.
It's
kind
so
of
funny
thing.
that you bring that up, because revisiting your story makes you remember things that you've done,
Sure.
especially when you're this far in and there's days when it's hard.
Yeah. Right.
But we would walk
Yeah.
the square and pray. And we even did, some professional photographs early on
Sorry.
on the square.
Yeah.
So we need to pull
We
those
were,
out
yeah, we
sometime.
were kind of like declaring, you know
Like,
what I mean? That this is what God wants for
claiming our
us. And
space.
so we're going to be here. So there actually ended up being 3 buildings that were being renovated. And the one building was occupied. And I told Tanya, I was like, we need to know what's going on in there. So her husband stopped by and talked to the workers, and they were like, oh yeah, this is under renovation. It's, gonna be whatever. So we're like, oh, there's already a viable business going in there. So we're like, okay, so we started praying. Like, we just kept praying. And so on our way, like, if I was leaving her house to go across town, I would go through the square and I would do an extra lap and say a prayer. If she was like leaving to go get groceries or something, it was like we'd do an extra lap and say a prayer. And then some nights we would just walk up and just pray, like, God, whatever it is that you want us to have, like, we'll be okay with it. And I think at one point we had even said, even if you don't want us to be on the square like we thought you did, like, we're okay with that too. And so we were supposed to go in where the tattoo place is. So that was supposed to be our building. And we actually started renovating that portion. And then we realized that there was no way we could meet the timeline that we needed because we had already secured our ice cream. And we needed to be open way sooner than that.
And we were, we had grown out of that space that we were in. And it was scary. But we also, I live in the downtown area. And my husband and I just, living in the city for so long and seeing the historic districts come back to life. And it's such a gift to me to see the revitalization of everything, because I think it's so amazing to see the different generations come through areas that were established, so long ago. And so that was important to me just because of the heritage in my own personal home and why we bought it. And then also seeing my hometown and just hoping and praying that things would start to really liven up and come back to life. So, there's a little bit of a vision in there. Somewhere deep.
Yeah. So when we came on scene, Posh was renovating her building at the time, and then Meredith was here. And I mean, that was all as far as like shopping. Pookie's had just opened, and so we didn't really know how it's going to work because, like, unless you have lots of business, you're not going to get a bunch of foot traffic. So we had a lot of doubt that people were going to drive across town just for us kind of thing. So that was really nervy in the beginning. But, I mean, God's done his thing, and we've reinvented ourselves a little bit after COVID, and we're still in the same building, and we just celebrated our 5 years.
Yeah, congratulations.
In that building. So we've been scooping ice cream for 5 years and, loving on people for 5 years.
And no, we don't have big muscles.
No.
That's our number one question. I bet you've got really big arm muscles. No, we don't.
Yeah. So for folks that may not be familiar with Southern Illinois Mercantile Company, describe your space, because you have several thousand square feet, and then what's in the space? What are you selling?
Okay, so when we originally started over there, we had over 90 vendors that we would sell on consignment. And then our business model was a little bit different than like an antique place or something. So what we tried to do was work with these small vendors that maybe didn't have packaging or like a finished good or something. And we tried to like put them in the right direction to get them to a place of like, you're not just making something at your kitchen table, but you have a finished good that could go out into the world and people recognize and want to purchase, and not just like, oh, that's handmade kind of thing.
And then instead of it being in a booth, we would integrate it into our store.
So it felt very much like a retail store.
Right. And so that was like a different platform that we tried to give them. And then COVID occurred, and we had a lot of vendors start pulling back. We had a lot of vendors that exited the scene altogether. And then we looked at our own business model and decided that we were at a place where we could assume the risk. So when we first started, we didn't have any money, we didn't have any inventory, so that was the best way to fill our shop. So we progressed to a point where we were able to transfer the risk from the vendor to us, so we started wholesaling. So we actually purchase the items from our selected vendors now and wholesale them, to our people. So now the vendor gets their check immediately, and then we take on the risk of selling it to the client, which is completely changed the face of the game.
Yeah.
Because there's only two of us.
Right.
So, on her end, we haven't talked much about her, but this is our little digital marketing.
You can
There's
say
nothing that she cannot do. She is just amazing, and she's the greatest partner I could have ever prayed for. And so managing 90 vendors' sales
Yeah.
is an incredible task.
Well, we can't mention all 90, but who are some of your bigger vendors? Ice cream, of course, is a big.
Yeah, ice cream. We had a whole niche of people that crocheted. We had stained glass. We had woodworking, books,
Blown glass.
Local authors.
Which
authors.
we still have, and we're expanding daily. We just got Harry Spiller in.
Yeah.
He was kind of offended, I think, that he hadn't been in sooner. And we're like, well, we were kind of offended too, you know? So we have a whole, all of his books.
Yeah.
We work really closely with John Musgraves,
Historian.
local historian.
Yep.
We have several local authors that have devotionals.
Faith-based, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we just got our newest book, which is really cool, and it's called Nora's World. And it is about a little girl. So her grandmother is actually in our community, and the little girl has cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
So the book kind of goes through like how she interacts with her dog and kind of an inclusion thing, and so it's really sweet, and we just love stuff like that, stuff that can really minister.
Yeah, I mean, we had so many products, soap, essential oils, you name it.
Right.
I mean, it was everything.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's incredible how many gifted and talented people there are right here in our own community.
And it's a big store. What do
Yeah.
you think, 6,000 square?
We're right at 4.
4,000
Yeah.
square feet, and you have a full
So
bar.
yeah.
Where did the bar come from?
The bar was already there.
Okay.
So it actually used to be a bar, a
Okay.
legitimate bar establishment.
Right.
And then God turned it into an ice cream bar.
Yeah, it's like a soda fountain. It's
Yeah.
like a
I mean,
soda
so
fountain.
we,
And then it's also been a Kroger store.
right?
Oh, yeah.
And
Wasn't it a Sears catalog
I think
store?
we've heard Sears catalog store.
Wow.
We actually have pictures in the store from a gentleman who came to visit us from Washington State, and his great-great-grandfather had a general store there. And he
Dry
said,
goods.
I'll
That's
send you
really
some
cool.
pictures. And we were like, yeah, right, everybody says that.
Yeah, because,
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys have ran into it. Like, everybody that comes in, they know somebody that
A
knew
story
somebody
about-
that had
yeah,
somebody
exactly.
that, owned it.
Well, we
kind
got
of
an
thing.
email the next week, and it had these files in it, and they were incredible. So we had them blown up.
Yeah.
And it's of his grandfather and his grandmother in 1910 in front of our
Wow.
store.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
it's cool.
amazing.
Yeah.
So is your building older than 1900, or is it around that?
I would say it's right around there.
So we got to looking because of the way the front on the pictures are, because they actually have it listed for 116 and we're 112.
Okay.
So we thought maybe he had the wrong building.
Yeah.
But then we realized he didn't.
Okay.
And there was a pole out front, and I don't know if you guys have ever noticed it, but there's a pole in between the two entrances, and it used to be covered in sheet metal. And we have pictures. We went out one day, and we're like, let's see what's underneath there. We took the sheet metal off, and lo and behold, it's the original pole.
Wow.
So us and there's 2 over here at Hill Printing are the only 2 remaining original poles to the square.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're solid iron too.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Holy cow.
It's pretty
It's
special.
pretty
Yeah.
exciting.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So I want to pivot and I
Okay.
want to talk about you guys and being business owners.
Okay.
So, first of all, what is your favorite part about owning your own business?
We get to make the rules.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. You know,
Loving on people.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I love people. I spend more time talking. I talk
Yeah.
myself to death. And I think Ellen's kind of lagged on to that.
I have.
But, you know, what a blessing to get to sit inside of an establishment and cheer people up, you know,
Yeah.
through ice cream or just conversation. I love loving on people.
Yeah. It really is a family place.
It is.
You know, you've had events there that have attracted family. You've had some women Bible studies that when I look through the window, I'm like, holy cow, how many people are in there?
Right.
Right. And then you just have some, maybe even after event times too. We've talked about
Yeah.
that at the Civic Center downtown of having your door open for
We
someone.
have people, you know, use the building for showers or receptions. We've had rehearsal dinners there. We've had all kinds of things, and it's really just a fun place.
You just like people.
Yeah.
You know, we don't like controversy, so when we're working, and we really we want people to feel good. Like I said earlier, I grew up with a wonderful childhood, and not everybody has that.
Right. It's kind of like a safe haven almost. So we have a lot of people, like if you've had a bad day, they're like, I'm going to go by and see the girls at the Merc. Like I need some kind of like lift me up. I mean, I don't know how many times like I've looked over and Tanya has had literal tears being cried on her shoulder kind of thing. Or people, we find we've got this family right now that every week they come to visit us, and every week he sets her on the counter and she looks in the ice cream, and he said the other day to me, "You're almost getting too big for this." And it like really took me back, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like these people are growing up with us, and so watching that and seeing that, and that they find us to be such a safe place for them it's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And what would you say that your biggest strengths are as business owners? Obviously, people and connectedness. I can definitely see that.
I feel like we are amazing at changing. I feel like that is one thing that we do not resist. If there is something that is not working, we immediately try to pivot and figure out a way to make it different.
And you've done that a few times.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, we think there always has to be a constant change, because the market's always changing, people are always changing, and if you can't recognize that and see that niche, and then it's going to be detrimental in the long run. So we try really hard to always have our morals, but not to be set in our ways.
Right.
So we're all the time changing. Like if you walked in the store right now, it would not look like the same it did when you walked in last week.
And that happened to me just the other day.
You know what I mean? So whether we painted something or whether, you know what I mean? Like
brand new display.
Exactly.
Yeah, I find myself apologizing all the time to people coming in that's never been in before, because I feel like from my perspective, it's always a mess.
Yeah.
Because we do everything. Every single thing that happens at our store happens from our hands. And so sometimes it has to come apart to come back together again. But yeah, we do like to spruce things up a bit and just completely.
Right. So you have, you are similar in a lot of ways, but you're very different in personality.
Yeah.
So do you have specific strengths as business owners that are a little bit more of a yin and a yang between the two of you? Yeah,
without a doubt. And so that was like hard for me early on, because I grew up kind of like really independent. Stop making that face. Really independent, and I hadn't quite found myself, and so I thought I had to do everything.
Only child.
Only child syndrome. So like at our small space, if I was working on numbers, I would make her sit in the other office. Like she couldn't even be in the same room with me, because it just bugged me. You know what I mean? Like I need you to not be looking over my shoulder, kind of thing. And then I would like go through and try to help her like arrange stuff, and she'd be like, "Well, that's dumb. Like, why'd you do that?" And I'm like, "Okay, fine, I won't help you anymore." Well, then like I came to find out that like it's not my thing. So there's a lot of people that'll come into the shop and they'll ask about something, and I'm like, "I'm sorry, not your girl for that. Like, you got to talk to Tanya." And then there's others that'll come in, and Tanya will be like, "Yeah, not your girl for that. Like, you gotta talk to Ellen." So I always think of Tanya as the idea and the innovator and the creator, and I am the follower of it. So she dreams it, and I help to make it happen.
They start like this at about 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
I'll call her and I'll say, "I got this crazy idea." And she'll go, "Oh my gosh, what is it?" You know? And then I'll tell her, and then sometimes I draw it on paper, but she can make what's in my mind happen in the digital world, where she has to fix my computer.
Yeah.
If it won't print, she has to get it connected to the. I mean, I really don't have. That's not my. I don't like doing that. I'm not interested in that. I'd rather throw it over to her and say, "Hey, but." You have to have that side of the business to be relevant in today's generation.
So are you the social media marketer?
I am.
Okay, because I see your business, the growth of your business has mirrored the growth of social media marketing.
Yeah.
And so did you just learn it as you went along?
Yeah.
Because you're really, really good at it.
Yeah, we did. And then we try to surround ourselves with people that if we don't know it, like somebody can show us.
Okay.
And so, and then if someone can't show us, then there's always Google and YouTube. So we figure it out.
I mean, she does crazy stuff. Like with our point of sale systems, she can go in and, go into coding or whatever the terminology is for that and rewire it to manipulate it to make it do what we need it to do for us. And that's incredible to me. I don't understand any of that.
But it also has been super helpful in saving us massive amounts of money.
Sure.
So we don't go to someone for digital design. We don't go to someone for social media advertising. We've partnered with Boulder Creek Photography, and she's helped do some of our branding photos. So we work interchangeably with her, and there's just a lot of things, like people will come in and they'll be like, oh, well, where's your whatever? And we're like, yeah, you're looking at her, like we don't have that. Like she was on the phone the other day and they're like, well, can I talk to your IT guy? And she's like, well, first of all, it's not a guy, but yes, you can talk to Ellen kind of thing, And so it's just, we started out, we didn't have any money. So what did we have? We had time and we had talent. And that's what we did in exchange.
Yeah, passion.
Yeah.
You're very passionate, both of you. I was going to say one of your strengths, I think, is your faith, too.
Yeah.
Do you want to speak about that for a minute? How does your faith play out in your business?
Well, I mean, exactly what the word faith means, the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. I mean, that's like one of our mantras, our mottos. There are hard sides to business that we don't want to talk about, we don't want to put out there. But, there's a lot of tears shed sometimes. You feel like you're failing. Will you ever get a paycheck? I mean, we're realistic, know. I mean, it's an investment. And when you don't have investment, you have to carry that burden and that load for a little while. And are we crazy? Have we done the wrong thing? And so I think we pray. We find ourselves on our knees a lot at the Mercantile. You might walk in and see us on our knees up at the messy desk that we have.
There's been times that like I'm doing something and Tanya's like, I'm just gonna walk, and she will walk literal circles praying for the situation that we found ourselves in. And I mean, we set up a long time ago. She had asked me, well, what happens if like people don't like our faith, or what happens if they decide like they're not for us? And I was like, well, we don't have to do this. We'll just close the we'll close the business. So we set out a long time ago that we would close our business long before we compromise on our faith. And so we don't compartmentalize that. 9 out of 10 times if you walk in, you're going to see something about it or you're going to hear it. We don't shove it down anyone's throat, but it is very much a vital part of who we are.
I think, it may make some people uncomfortable, but we do love to love on people. And, God is a loving God, and we're all different. And so being able to love on humanity in good times and bad times, it's as simple as that. Yeah. You walk in my door, I'm going to love on you.
Just like
Doesn't
Grandma's
matter
house.
who you are, what you're doing.
And I see that attract people that want to love on people or that need love, and they know that that's a safe haven.
Yeah. Just, I mean,
we try to model it after our childhood. So anytime like I needed help or anything, I always went to my grandmother's house. And so it was the same way with Tanya. Like people came in and out all the time at her grandmother's house. And so we say it's a lot like Grandma's house around here. Like if you need something, just yell for us. Right. Like Grandma would never not stop doing what she was doing to help you. Whether that was to get a snack out of the cabinet or to refill the fridge. Like Grandma was always there to give you whatever you needed. And so a lot of times when we say that to people, they kind of understand like you're home. Like, you're in a place that it's okay if you don't know what you want, or it's okay if you feel weird walking in the first time, but like you're going to feel loved when you leave.
Yeah.
And we have Ellen's grandma's original refrigerator from her basement.
Oh, wow.
And we have it refinished, and it's full of glass bottle soda.
Yeah.
Well, when I'd come home from school down here at Washington, first thing I'd do is go open the same kind of refrigerator on the back porch, grab me a soda and a Twinkie or a Ding Dong or whatever, and we'd watch cartoons. And, that's the sentiment that we express with our faith is
Right.
that when you come in our doors, and I get to honestly say that I'm a grandma because
Right.
I have 3 grandchildren now. So I get to show grandmas, we get to show grandmas love. You know, when you love on people, you don't have to worry about whether they have faith or not. You are just loving on people.
Yeah,
That's it.
hospitality.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I want to ask what some of your tactical resources that have been valuable to you. And what I mean by that is something that you couldn't live without, or it would be very difficult to run your business without.
I think that's my question. First of all, ice cream.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Right. Yeah.
We
Did that come in early when you guys set up shop?
when we
When we expanded.
when
Okay.
when we were in the little shop dreaming, we knew we wanted ice cream, but we wanted the kind of ice cream that people would tell other
Would-
people about.
yeah, would
ice
try.
cream.
Like when you go on vacation to the beach and you're like, you know, taking selfies and tagging, you're like, this is the best ice cream ever. Like we wanted that kind of ice cream.
And where does it come from?
It comes from Southern Indiana,
Okay.
and the name of the company that makes it is Bliss Artisan. Angie and Michael Woodburn are the founders. It's a husband and wife team. They deliver the ice cream fresh to us every week, and they're literally got their hands on it. You know, I mean, they're not like digging in, rubbing.
No,
it
I mean, they
around.
have like a distribution center
Yeah.
now. Like they've grown into that, but they're just like us.
And that
you know?
bourbon bacon ice cream is like nothing else.
It's so
Yeah.
good. It's so good. And we love ice cream, but we really had a hard time at the beginning finding ice cream that we didn't have to make, because when there's just 2 of you, you don't have that sort of time to do those things. And a sweet friend of ours it connected us with them, and the next thing you know, they're on their way. We were on our way there to try their ice cream. Then they were on their way here to see our space and if we were a fit for their ice cream family. And then it just, God connected the dots, and here we are 5 years later. And we're very partial to our ice cream, you know.
I'm very partial to your ice cream.
Yeah.
And what else? Is technical resources?
Ellen.
Well,
I cannot tell enough. You know, we're living in a
She's
world
like a
where
big
you
sister.
have to
She
be
just had a
digitally relevant and technically relevant and able to manipulate and facilitate things in the world. She's an enormous asset to our business. And she does our taxes. She has an accounting degree. And sometimes I'm like, man, you know, that's what everybody needs in Ellen. You know?
That's awesome.
well, and it's funny that she says that because I revere her the same way. So it's like we wouldn't work, like the Mercantile wouldn't be the Merc without both of us. And it didn't take me long to see that. Like I could not do this on my own. Like if something were to ever happen, just put a sign on the door, we're for sale, closing her up. You know what I mean? And so like every time you walk in the store, like I'm always amazed about like how awesome she makes it look. I mean, like before the Rotary event, she literally had just moved in 2 new pieces of furniture and reworked the entire display. And I'm like, who does that? You know what I mean? Like she's like a superwoman when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
Well, now see, that goes back to grandmas, because you got to learn how to make do with what you have. So we didn't have any professional displays, or our husbands made several things for us. Thank goodness that they're craftsmen.
yeah, so I guess our husbands would be a tactical
Yes.
component
Let's
too.
not forget them.
We cannot do
you
life
know,
without them.
Right.
But you know, we were both taught and brought up to take what you have and, you know, make it better. You know, my grandma would always, she wouldn't have a ribbon for a present, but she would take the comics, you know. I'm sure a lot of people's grandmas would do that, and then she'd wrap a gift for a party I was going to, but it didn't have a bow. Well, she'd start cutting paper, you know, and then she'd start doing, and the next thing you know, you have this beautiful gift. And so I loved that about my grandmother. She could make a can of green beans taste like she had made them, broke the beans and made them from scratch. You know, if she didn't have broken beans, she'd start, dress it up. She'd say, dress it up, sweetie. Yeah. And so, you know, there are times when you feel insignificant compared to other, you can't look sideways.
Right.
Other places, and you're like, gosh, our store looks like Hillbilly, you know, or, you know, you start not thinking it's good enough or whatever because it's not got all these glamorous elements. But then God reminds me that He's making our way, and that's what makes the Mercantile special.
I love that.
Let's talk about small town, because you definitely found success in a small town, and that was part of the original vision, is that you wanted to be downtown. So what do you think about it now that you've been in it for a while?
Oh, it's phenomenal. Like, we couldn't be more thrilled with the direction the downtown area is taking.
I get teared up.
I mean, I feel like sometimes in business, a lot of people just want to like hold things to themselves. And we really look at it as the more people downtown, the more traffic, the better it's going to be. So we originally had held close to the other two spaces next to us because we had a vision of expanding. And COVID happened, and we decided, you know what, we need more people down here. So we were able to secure 2 renters for our landlord, and lo and behold, we have new people down here, and so just continually welcoming other businesses and people down here, because the more the merrier.
So what advice would you, if I had somebody come into the small business incubator here and say, I really love downtown, I'm looking for downtown, I'm going to start a business downtown, what would you guys say to them? What kind of encouragement or discouragement?
I think the hardest thing in a small town, I don't want to say like staying in your own lane, but I think a lot of times people try to be too much to all people.
Right.
So, like, for example, like, we used to carry spa products in our shop. Well, when Katie moved in, there's really no need for us to have spa products anymore. So we don't carry them because we have this great, amazing bath store. So when people come in looking for spa products, we say, hey, we've got this great place up on the corner. Why don't you go see our friend Katie?
It's a lavish bath box.
Right. And so
Which we've interviewed.
Well, and I'm going to jump in here because I said, I lived in Dallas for over 20 years. And one thing that happens is if you don't have diversity in business, you need a little bit of all kinds of things. And when it's repetitive, you go in one place and it's like you've been to that same place over and over and over again, then people stop visiting your area because, well, they have everything's the same. And so I think that's the beauty of what's going on down here right now, is we're really seeing all different things come to life, and it's beautiful, And I, as a child, before I left here, things were kind of closing, and it wasn't full downtown, and coming back and seeing the buildings being taken care of and renovated, it just blesses my soul. I could not be more excited for the future of our city. I love the development. I love growth. I love seeing generations take ownership of their time and making it their own. And God has room at His table for everybody.
Yeah. Is there a certain business that you'd like to see come down? Because we all have one that I think, if we just had this.
I don't know. I mean, we welcome just about anything at this point.
I'm just excited for everything to open because I'm going to have to get me a bicycle. And start riding, you know what I mean? Because I want to be aggravating everybody.
Yeah, I think we're more excited for the foot traffic, because that's what we did for a long time too, especially while the boys were little, because they've been with us the whole time, as well as her daughter. And so we would go on our afternoon walks, and we would hit all of our friends at this, and we would just go by and see everybody and check in on them and, hey, how you doing? Just out for a walk. And people really got used to that, got used to being like, oh, hey, the girls are here. Like, they're on their walk kind of thing.
I'm very nostalgic. And so, I think in songs, Ellen always teases me. And when I think about
I'm surprised she hasn't sang yet. You have a real microphone.
Yeah, I know, right? But it's on an ice cream scoop, so can't get in tune right now. But I think of I love Christmas, so the holiday city sidewalks, busy sidewalks, dressed in holiday style, and the hustle and the bustle of people. I love that, and I cannot wait till this whole thing is filled up with people and having a good time and fellowshipping and making new friends. I think it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
It's an amazing time right now.
Well, you make it sound easy to open a business and be 5 years down the road. It wasn't that easy.
No. We've had lots of tears. We've quit like 3 times, I think.
On each other? Like,
yeah,
I'm done?
I mean, we've like came to a mutual agreement. I think one time we actually had our husbands at Panera, and we're like, okay, what's the exit strategy? You know, like
we've had a couple meetings like that where it's like, we're just not, like, we don't think we can make it.
Yeah, like we can't do this anymore. Like, this is too hard.
Right. And what
we're not good
changed
enough.
that then?
The Lord.
Yeah.
I mean, there is such a drive for this that we don't even know where it's going. You know what I mean? He's doing something that most days we would like to go back to being stay-at-home moms. You know what I mean? But for some reason, he's got us in this place, in this time, and we're just trying to have happy hearts about it.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. Like, I mean, we left the freedom of the house.
That's been the hardest part for me.
Yeah.
I've been available to my kids since they were born.
Yeah.
Anytime, anywhere, any
I think
place,
they've
any
really
day,
grieved.
any night.
Yeah.
And we did university model school and home education. They grew up, and my youngest is 15, and so not being available the way that I was for so many years is still an adjustment, even 5 years into the building down here. There are days when I'm like, I can't be in 2 places at once. And the truth of the matter is that other people can't run our business. And we found that out, the hard way. People, we like to tease and have fun. We are it's a fun thing. And so we have our caricature, that's our, our logo. And when we get a lot of people from out of state that, Google, and they want to stop and have ice cream at the Merc, and they're looking
they want
for the
to
characters,
see us,
Right.
kind of thing.
I don't. So we're kind of finding a way we're constantly working to figure out how we can make it work, and also be available to our families, and we were learning to say no. That's the hardest thing that I've ever had to do.
I think
I am not a no girl. I will say yes to everyone, every time, everywhere, and figure it out.
I think that's what's hard in small business. I would say that's probably the hardest thing, is learning where to shut it off.
Yeah.
Because like when you work in the corporate world, like it's easy because you clock out. But when you own a small business, I mean, you're getting messages at midnight.
Right.
And like, 9 out of 10 times they're just sending it so that you'll see it and you can respond in the morning. But there's those few that, you're always available. So they want you right now. And so it's kind of, I would say, owning your own business, that's the hardest part. Because if you're not available to the people that, patron you, then they don't feel that small connection. Like the whole reason they're shopping small business, instead of going to Walmart kind of thing. Like there's a reason, because they want to feel connected. And so it's that fine balance of being like, hey, I'm actually, it's my day off today. Like, Tanya's at the shop, you can, check with her, or her doing the same thing, like, hey, Ellen's at the shop, like I'll pass along to her, and we'll get it taken care of kind of thing.
But if you both need to be somewhere, you don't have 5 or 10 employees to pass that on to.
We will close it down.
You have to close the door.
Yeah, we put a sign on the door.
And that's happened, a lot recently. We've had graduations. I've had 2 children get married, and then we've had 3 grandchildren. And I'm not missing that.
Right.
Right.
And most people are very understanding.
Yeah.
We just put a note out on social media, and then put a note on our door, hey, this is a big deal in our life. And because she's a part of my family.
Right.
Even though we're not blood relatives.
Right.
She is like a sister. They're with us a lot, and I don't want her to miss it either.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's like the beauty of us owning it, is we just say, hey, we're going to shut it down. Like, we're going to shut it down, and we're going to go, enjoy our life portion right now. So,
there's a lot of contemplation, like, we're not going to get any numbers today, but, in the big picture, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm going to be there.
I love that.
So we want to thank you, Tanya Miller and Ellen Graff, owners and operators of the Southern Illinois Mercantile Company.
Yeah.
Walking in faith.
Yep.
Yeah.
Every step of the way.
Such an awesome store. Why would somebody come to see you? What
The ice cream.
The ice cream, really?
Yeah.
Is that number one?
Yeah,
and then,
it is.
And then shop for everything else?
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yep.
That's excellent. Well, thanks for joining us. It's
Thank
been a
you for
pleasure.
having us.
We
Yeah.
finally got you at the table.
I know, finally.
In the building.
Yeah.
How
That's good.
do people find you?
So the biggest thing, people always find us on Google. So they'll search like ice cream near me or something, and we pop up. You can always find us on Facebook, Instagram.
Only at the Merc.
Yeah, only at themerc.com. We dabble a little bit in TikTok, so we have some reels, but it's there's kind of some resistance there. But yeah, I mean, our main platforms are Facebook and Instagram and our website.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
Great.
Awesome business. Come down and join
Yeah.
us. Downtown Marion, Illinois. Hey, we want to thank you for joining us for another episode of Small Town, Big Business. We want to thank the businesses that do sponsor this podcast. That includes Arcadia Wealth Group, Fowler Heating and Cooling, Black Diamond Harley Davidson and RV, the Watermark Auto Group Foundation, Swinford Media Group, and of course our producers, Luke O'Neill at Union Street Arts.
And remember to subscribe anywhere that you listen to the podcast so that you get notifications when we release new episodes every 2 weeks. Again, I'm your host, Allison Hassler.
And I'm Russ Williams. Thanks for joining us.